Probably hello, just Tony, but hello, anybody else tuning in for the TFE live question and answer. We've got some questions that you guys asked in the Discord earlier, and some stuff that maybe we've noticed being talked about or asked about over the course of the last few days as we've gotten full. So I've got Sam and Brenden. Sam, of course, the commissioner. Brenden running the D-backs, and the other guy on the competitive committee, the three-man monster that we are. Brenden, I don't know if you know you're muted. I don't think you're saying anything, but you are muted. Hi, Brenden.
Oh, I got it. What's up?
Hi, Brenden. How you doing?
Doing good, Alan. How are you?
I'm okay, man. It's cold and snowy here, but I'm ready. I'm ready. I mean, I deep down inside, maybe I was ready to go tonight, but this thing that we're doing right now, I think, is maybe not necessary, but I think will be helpful for some of these guys, like I said in the Discord earlier, that think maybe they're ready to go right now, but just give them a couple more things to think about before really jumping in to that 30-team auction. Sam, do you have some kind of idea where you wanted to start, or do you want me to head down a list?
I'll say a few things. One of the reasons for delaying was because you two fine gentlemen, thought that was the best thing for the league, and I was happy to accommodate. The other reason was I was pretty sure that Chalfont was going to find a buyer. He just kept pushing it. And, the league was still technically in refund mode. And so I didn't want to jump the gun and then, us be in the situation that we're in right now, which is where we can't make a payment because we've got to wait for league safe to make that other refund. So we couldn't have drafted tonight if we wanted to.
Still really cool that somebody bought a spot in a league.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's awesome. That's awesome. Props to them, and hopefully they do well, and that winds up being a good investment. They seem super active and involved, and so I'm looking forward to that. But, why don't we just go ahead and hop into it, Alan? If you want to read off some of the questions, we'll go through those, and then we'll demo some stuff.
Okay, so let's start with quick and easy inflation as it relates to prospects. They don't, very, very simply, they don't. If the process still sounds odd, so let's just, if you've seen the mock drafts already, you bid $30 on Jackson Holiday, and you win him for $30. That $30 will come out of your auction budget. You will be down to $230 after that. And Jackson Holiday, let's just say he doesn't break camp. He's still a prospect. He's going to be in your minors. He's going to have $30 for his salary, but that is not going to count against your $260 or your $360 in season until he gets called up. If he stays in the minors the whole year, no inflation for prospects. He's going to be $30 still next year when he gets called up. That's kind of the thing that I think maybe is tricky, is that they can have that $30 next to their name, but not actually have it count, in season. But yeah, I don't know if Tony's new. No, we got four guys. We got four guys, man. We got four guys.
There we go.
No, I lost my train of thought. I'm terrible at this.
You were just saying, folks in the minors do not inflate. And I'm going to show this a little more later, but Alan, I'll share my screen so that we can talk about this minors thing here. So you all can see here, this is my ABL team. None of these guys are my pet players here. I trade players like, chips in at an extra restaurant. I don't know. But anyways, so these are the guys in the minors. They've got a 2050 designation. That means that they have never accumulated in MLB stat. Their stat page will be empty. They do not inflate. So, in theory, let's just say I'd owned Corona here for a few years. I think he came up, back in 2019, he was eligible to be drafted, but he's still just $1. He was picked up in the FYPD or off the waiver wire with the FAB. He was $1. He's got a 2050 designation, and he has not changed in that price. Now, somebody who's different is like Colton Cowser. So Cowser was a 2050, but he got called up. And as you can see, he accumulated some stats last year. Just a cup of coffee, but that changes his status to 2035. So he got to play the whole year at his $1. Next year, he will change to this contract. It'll say first, and he'll inflate to $3. So back to the original question. If you draft Jackson Holiday, he'll be down here with these folks here. They do not count against my in-season salary cap. So if you come down here, my cap is $360. If you add everything up, I'm only using $81 because it's not counting any of my minors players' salaries. So Holiday's down here at $30. He's not impacting your income or your salary cap at all in the season. When he gets called up and he turns into this Cowser with some stats accumulated, and he goes on to the active roster of 29 players for the in-season active roster, then his 30 Fantrax will count it down here in this used amount, and it'll go against your 360 cap. Now, after the year, he'll change from 25th. Well, he'll change to this 2035 when he gets called up. After the year, he'll change to first, and he will inflate from $30 to $32. So even if you only had a cup of coffee and you didn't get a good view of him, you're going to have to ride him in this 26-man spot for next year's auction. So you have $32 less in the auction next year if he got called up during the year. Does that make sense?
With Cowser, look at Cowser right there. Even if he starts 24 back in the minors,
yep,
his clock has now started. Like once they're called up,
right?
Even if he goes back down in the minors, and you can put him back down in the minors on tracks, but he still will still inflate, and he will still be counting against your cap after that. Even if he's back down in the minors, he could spend all of 24 back in the minors. But he lost his prospect status. The clock has started. It does not stop once it starts.
So he will inflate, so he'll be $3, but he won't count against this active cap if he's in the minors.
Oh,
Right,
really?
Sam, we can't have him in the minors for the auction, right? So any players
No,
with
you
stats.
can't. Right, you can't have him in the minors for the auction. But let's say Holiday gets called up in July, and he plays for a month and he's just terrible, and they send him back down, so he gets the minor designation again. Then he can go back into the minors, and his salary will no longer count as an active salary in that year. But at the end of the year, you can only have 2050s in your minors. So you're going to have to move him up here, and you're going to have to keep him active, which will reduce your auction budget.
Yeah, so just to kind of sum it up, I try to simplify it. So the year after a player accumulates any stats, they're no longer considered a prospect. You have to move them to your active roster in the offseason, and they will inflate by $2. After the auction, if you decide to hold them, if they're still in the minor leagues, you can place them back into your minor league roster. They won't count against your 260 cap or 360 in-season cap until they're back on your active roster, but they'll still maintain that $3 inflated salary for that first year after they accumulated stats.
Yeah, perfect summary there, Brenden. And while we're here, I'll just show this. So you have keeper admin. This is how you offer salary or contracts. So you can come in at the end of the year in January before we lock it and roll the season over, and you can choose how many years you're going to give them, 1 to 5 years, or not extend them at all. And you notice the 2035 players are not in an option year. So you don't have to offer them a contract. You just get to automatically keep them. And when the season rolls over, they'll turn into first contracts. And then the next year, you'll have to offer them a deal.
Hopefully that answers inflation with regard to they don't inflate.
Well,
they don't inflate until they're not prospects.
Do you want to touch upon it all, that RB that we just voted on? Because that's going to kind of throw a wrinkle in this, because outside of that, before that, each year, the prospect, and then once they're a first or 2035 and then a first, they're going to inflate by 2. With this new rule change we just voted on, kind of throws a little wrinkle on where you get to make a decision on it.
Yep. So let me talk a little bit about that. If a player is on a first contract, we're going to keep track of this manually. There will be an Excel document. I don't expect this to happen a lot, maybe 10 times a year. And it's got to be manually entered in by us. But you can do this to all of your first contracts one time. You can come in and you can, instead of offering them a 1 to 5 year deal, they just stay as a first for 1 more year, but their inflation is $5 instead of $2. So let's say, I'll share my screen again, give us an example. Let's say I have JD Martinez here. He's not a good example because I wouldn't do that. Let's say I have Josh Hader here, and I don't know where he's going to sign. And so I'm like, man, I really want to give this guy a contract, but what if he signs in a non-closer role? I know that that's probably not appropriate for Hader, but just follow the example here. I can opt to give him that extension year. So he'll still show up as first next year, but his salary will be $19 instead of $16. And then at the end of next year, I have to offer him a contract or cut him. If I offer him a contract, he'll continue to go up at $2 a year. So he'll be 21 to 23 and so on. So it's not just that I get charged $3 that 1 year. It's every year in the future, essentially, I've cost myself $3 by doing that. So it should be used pretty sparingly. But I think kind of the example that we used in ABL when we came up with the rule was the Max Meyer situation, where you have this prospect that's $3. They have to be offered the contract, but they haven't really pitched because they had Tommy John. You don't want to offer him a 5-year deal and him never come back. So you pay a couple bucks extra and you get to watch him for 1 more year. You don't have to throw this top end prospect back into the pool after you spent signing bonus and all that kind of stuff, which kind of segues into the signing bonus conversation. But
I would have liked the ability to give and just do an ARB year for, say, like Aaron Ashby at the beginning of last year. And then I just would have had his ARB year of the injury. And then now I would have to decide what kind of contract I want to give him. Instead, at the beginning of last year, I gave him a max contract, and now I'm already down 1 year on that of injury. So that would have made that decision quite different for me. So this could be interesting.
And we keep talking about arbitration, so I'm going to pull Fantrax back up. Arbitration, the way it works in our league is at the end of the year, we're going to pull up, each position. And so let's say Adley Rutschman, he was a rookie in 2022, and then he played in 2023, and he's not on his contract yet. So he wouldn't be eligible for arbitration. But once you offer him that contract, and this says, 2029 or whatever it's going to say, then he would count. So somebody that would count here is Contreras or Cal Raleigh. But you come into Contreras and you see he came up. This was his 2035 year. This was his first year. And then he was given a contract from 2022 through 2026. So he got max extended. So he's in his first 3 years under contract here, and he finished in the top 5 for catchers. So he would get a salary bump because of that. So his inflation, instead of being $2, would be, I forget the number, I think it's 30%. So he would go up by, a couple bucks extra or whatever it might be. It would probably be low here in this situation. But if he continues year after year to be in this top 5, he'll grow at a 30% rate instead of that $2 rate. If he's like Sean Murphy and finished in the top 10, it would be a different rate and so on. So that's how that arbitration is going to work. That's a lot of work on my part, but I think it's a pretty cool feature. And at the end of the day, I'm just going to come in here, go to all, I'm going to sort, I'm going to look at the eligible guys that are under contract, and we're going to, assess the arbitration that way. Any questions on that?
No, I think it's great. I think it aligns closer to the MLB, right? Performance-based incentives and reward on your actual stats that you put out versus a flat rate $2 a year increase, right?
Yep, absolutely.
What else
What else we have that one?
here? We hit prospect contracts. I think really we hit that pretty well, Sam, when you were bringing up your ABL team. The FYPD bonus slot mechanism. Do you want to go over that again?
Yeah, let me see if I can find that window.
Because that is something that's new to TFE. We do not do this in ABL. I think it's really interesting, but it's completely new to us as well.
Yep. So you're going to have this sheet in this. This is just a sample, but in this example, you have the 3rd overall pick, and then you have, your picks for rounds 2 through 20. And there's this schedule here. And what this schedule says is here's the slot bonus for each position or round. This is the amount of slot that you're offering. So you're offering 75%, 100, or 125% of slot. And this is the chance that they have to sign based on you offering them that. So if you just come in and offer a player what they're supposed to get, you have an 85% chance of signing that player. If you overpay him and give him a bonus, it increases to 95%. If you go cheap on him, you can still sign him, but your chances drop a bit, all right? Now, let's say we go through this process and you fail to sign 2 of your prospects. The 18 or whatever that you signed are going to move on. You sign them at what you offered them, and you're done. The 2 that you didn't, you have a choice. You can offer 50%, 100%, or 125%, and your chances drop here, okay? Now, in all cases, you can offer 150 here, 175 here, and then if both terms fail, you can offer a 200% of slot, and they're guaranteed to sign. So if you just have to have that prospect, you're going to get them. Just might be a little more expensive. I want to emphasize, this is a one-time payment. It goes into the pool for that year, and it's paid out of the playoffs. So everyone here is going to spend something like $40 to $50 signing prospects. That $1,500 goes into the playoff pool.
Right. This is real money.
I think you really got to emphasize this. This is real money, real dollars out of your pocket, right?
That's right. This is real money, and I'm going to go into League Safe and send everybody a bill based on what this number down here says. So in this example, I had the 3rd round or the number 3 pick. My slot was $10 based on that. And everyone will get a sheet like this, and they'll just fill it out and send it back to me. We'll do a pod live where we go sheet by sheet and run everybody's stuff, and then we'll do round 2. So in this case, let's say I really care about my first 5 rounds, so I'm going to overpay them because I want to make sure I sign them. Then I kind of don't care 6 through 10 or 6 through 15, and then I really don't care 16 through 20. So here are my chances to sign. I'm going to break it, yeah. All right, here are my chances to sign, and this is a random number that will be generated between 1 and 100. If that number is above your chance to sign, then you fail to sign them. So in this case, 93 is above 85. This guy doesn't sign. You don't have to pay him. So in this case, you would have had 5 people not sign with you. And you can just change something on here and it'll update it. In that case, you missed 6. In this case, you missed 3, and so on. So you can see if you were to distribute your payout this way, you're probably going to pay something like mid-40s, and you're gonna not sign maybe 1 or 2 of your people. If you go to the full payout all the way down, you're probably going to get all your folks, but I just want to do this to show you how much you're going to pay out.
So this is interesting. This is good for me because I didn't quite understand exactly how the random number was generated. But basically, you're saying if you adjust your offer, higher, your chance to sign, the percentage in this case is all the way up to 95, which means when you generate that random number between 0 and 100, you only have 5 chances to actually lose out on a guy of a number higher than 95.
Right. So see, I'm signing, practically everybody here. Oh, that's a big one right there. Losing a 2nd round pick. But again, you get a second shot at them. But I just wanted to show you, if you sign them all at the maximum, it's $57. So that's the max you would pay. unless you go to the second round and wind up paying, the 200 or whatever.
I think one other point of clarification, Sam, that's important is, so now you're talking about $57 out of pocket into the league save pool cash. I think there's some confusion around. So what does that mean for what is their Fantrax salary going to be on these prospects?
Yeah, it's just like in the real MLB when you sign a prospect and you draft them, third overall, the slot for that pick is $6.8 million. Like Nick Senzel got $6.8 million as the number 2 pick, and that went into his bank account that day. And then he went on a minor league minimum contract making $30,000 in rookie ball, right? And so this works the same way. You pay that signing bonus, it's real money into the playoff pot, one-time payment. Their salary in Fantrax shows up as $1. It will inflate based on the $1. You will own them for up to, essentially 7.5 years if you play it right, at that 1, 3, and so on tick up there. So drafting higher value guys, you pay more for signing bonus, but their salary is the same as the guy that got drafted in the 16th round.
Right. So even though you pay more out of pocket for the signing bonus, there's no disincentive to want those top guys because they're not going to have a higher salary in Fantrax. So you're still going to have the same opportunity to potentially max extend them for minimal amount of money.
Yeah, and part of the cool part about that is if you have somebody who tanks and goes for a rebuild and they buy a bunch of premium picks to rebuild their franchise, they are paying in to fuel the winners of today while they're positioning themselves to be the winners of tomorrow.
So Tony asked, can you try to sign a kid for 0 bonus?
No, the minimum there is 75 on the first go round and 50% on the second go round. You have to give them some kind of signing bonus. Everybody, even if they're signed in the 20th round, is getting $25K signing bonus or whatever in the majors. Everybody's going to get something. But those bonuses are really low back at those rounds. We're talking about 50 cents. And just so you know, it rounds to the nearest dollar on that. So, it'll take the pennies and I'll add them all up together and then give you the nearest dollar.
Tony, you cheap bastard. The only guy asking, can I offer $0 for players? No,
right. And then I'll go lose.
Has that been addressed? We do not have $0 fab bids, correct?
We don't. Nope. Yeah,
that was Tony's complaining about 50-cent signing bonus, but then he's going to make 20 pizza bets in the channel, lose them all. How many prospects could you sign there?
Yeah. So let's talk about fab real quick because I think there were some questions around the fab. So everybody is going to get $260 in fab in Fantrax right now. And that is used to pick up your guys after you drink White Claw. Touche, Tony. I'm a Truly guy myself, Truly lemonade. But anyways, so when you win a player on Couch Manager, you win, your holiday for $30, whatever it is. I love how we keep saying holiday $30. I'm gonna laugh if he goes for $30. But you'll go into Fantrax. You'll go to players, you'll search for holiday, you'll hit add, it'll ask you what your bid is going to be, and you'll put whatever you want them for in Fantrax. Hit submit, and it'll put them on your team at that salary.
Whatever you want them for, Couch Managers.
Whatever you want them from on Couch Managers, you go into Fantrax, and put that number
add them at that,
So you'll build out your full team with up to $260 spent. Once the draft is over and all the players have been added, I'm going to reset the fab to $50 and I'm going to extend the in-season cap to $360. So trading can begin, but nobody can be picked up yet. We're going to do the first year player draft. We're going to pay the signing bonuses. We're going to add all of our FYPD guys, okay? And then we're going to run what's called Fabapalooza, which is where we run our first free agent fab auction. And everybody will go into the waiver wire where all the players that are left over after both drafts are there. minors and majors, doesn't matter. Everybody's been cleared except the J15s that haven't signed yet. And you will enter how much you want to pay for each player. Now, if Brenden bid 7 and I bid 10, the bid is going to be 10. It is not going to be 8 or 7 or whatever. Whatever you put is what you're going to get charged for that player. So you got to be careful with that, all right? That $50 has to last you the whole year. And to Alan's point, there are no $0 transactions. So if you spend 45 of your $55 building your team out in Fabapalooza, grabbing those major leaguers that are still there after the draft, you're going to have $5 to make moves for the rest of the year, which is very restrictive, okay? So teams that fill up in the draft and take 26 major leaguers are going to have an advantage because they're only going to have 3 spots to fill versus maybe 3, 5, or 6 or something like that. I say 3, 5, or 6 because you don't have to leave the auction with 26 players. You can spend $260 on one guy and then have 25 empty spots. I mean, it's possible, okay? So we do not force $1 bids for each spot. So you could buy 20 at auction and plan to fill the rest via trades and whatever. So that fab is valuable. Don't trade it away without thinking about that because that's how you make your transactions throughout the year.
Hey, Sam, question for you. I actually don't know the answer. So on our active roster, so we're going to have 29 after the Fabapalooza, 29 players on our active roster, right?
Up to, yep.
Is there any limitation on the amount of prospects that we can carry of those 29 outside of the 20 minor spots we're going to have?
Yes. So there's 26 active major league spots on your roster. All rosters must have 26 players with major league experience during the season. All right. In the off season, it kind of doesn't matter what your roster composition is, but during the season, you have to have an active player in every active spot. So you have to have a second baseman, a shortstop, a third baseman. You can't have an empty spot. It'll be an illegal lineup. It's not allowed. Okay. The second thing is you have to have 26 major league players. That's players that even if it was 2019 that they got a cup of coffee and they've been in the minors, that counts as an active major league player that can be in one of those 26 spots. The other 3 spots are flex spots. I highly encourage you not to carry 29 players because what will happen is one of your minor leaguers will get called up and you'll have a log jam on your roster. So those 3 spots are to accommodate trades, call-ups, etc. Now you can push the envelope. You can have a bunch of relievers in those spots, and you can rotate relievers in on off days and stuff to get a couple extra points. You can do whatever you want with those 3 spots, but there's not going to be any sympathy if you're sitting at 29 spots and guys get called up. You got 48 hours to trade or cut your way to get to a legal roster. Now, I will say once the September call-ups happen, we will go to 40-man rosters so that we don't have problems with a whole bunch of minor league guys getting called up and you getting jammed up.
So basically, those 3 flex spots are kind of your taxi squad. You can leave them open for call-ups if you need to sign someone from Fab, if you have an injury or something like that.
And they can be minor leaguers.
And they can be minor leaguers. Okay.
So you can technically carry 23 minor leaguers, 20 in your minors and 3 in those taxi squad spots. Tony, every owner is going to be responsible for picking up their own player as they win them.
I hope he asked that like as you were talking about it, because if he asked that after you already talked about it, Tony.
No, he asked it earlier.
Pretty much everything you guys wanted to hit. What do you guys? You guys got anything?
Is that it? Those are all the topics?
Pretty much, yeah. I think that's all I had written down. We didn't discuss the, how many teams do we think are going to start in a tank mode. No, like I felt that deserved its own, but before we get into that, anything you want to address further, Sam, or you feel like?
Yeah, I wanted to walk through a timeline for 3 types of players.
Okay.
And how they get on your roster and how the money works for them. Okay. So the first version of player you're going to get is in the MLB draft. That'll be up to 26 major leaguers or up to 23 major leaguers and up to 3 minor leaguers or whatever combination thereof. They will be paid with your $260 of auction money. They will go onto your roster and Fantrax. You will own them all year without offering a contract at whatever you bought them for at auction. They can be traded, they can be cut, they can be whatever, right? At the end of the year, you have to give them a contract and they'll inflate $2 or in some cases $5, as we talked about, and you'll own them for the duration of the contract that you offered, or somebody will. If you cut them after a contract's been offered, there's a cut fee of 100% in the first year of contract, 80%, 60, 40, 20, etc., up to the 5-year contract. So if you cut them in year 1, you're going to have a spreadsheet that gives you a negative to your cap for 5 years if they were on a 5-year deal. It's not just I cut them in year 1, so I have a year 1 penalty. It's every year that penalty will be applied, okay? One thing that I've thought about is offering the opportunity for owners to buy that out with real cash into the pool, because it kind of sucks if you got a $45 Woodruff and he goes in for TJ and your whole season is kind of scuttled. So if you want to throw an extra $50 in the pot to buy Woody off your lineup, I think that's kind of cool. We don't have to worry about that right now because nobody's going to have that situation until we're under contract next year. But we have had that situation arise, and people want to buy their way out with real money. I'm okay with that. We can vote on that. But that's player number 1, somebody who came in through the MLB auction. If you cut them, if you do not offer them a contract, they will go back into the pool and they will be drafted again next year in an auction where Brenden has $100, I have $150, Alan has $30, and we have all different amounts, and we're bidding on whatever players weren't kept. Okay. The second version of player comes in through the FYPD. You pay a real money one-time signing bonus. They go on your roster at $1. As they're promoted, they inflate, but they do not inflate the whole time they're in the minors. Once they're promoted, they go onto your active roster. They inflate the next year. Once they've had their first year, their first designated contract year, you offer them the extension, 1-year extension, or you offer them a contract, and then they're treated just like that major league player that came in through the draft. If you don't want them and you cut them loose, then they're going to go into the draft pool and everybody can draft them the next year at the auction. The third type of player is an FAAB player, a waiver wire player. They weren't drafted in either draft, but they've been through the draft process, so they're fully eligible. And those players are going to be picked up via the FAB system. Whatever you pay for them is what their salary is going to be, and they'll be on a first contract if they have any MLB experience. So if, a guy came up in 2021, he kind of sucked, got sent back down, and you buy him in the FAB, he's going to be a first on your roster. Even though he's in the minors and he's minor eligible, he's going to be a first because he has experience. If you buy a minor leaguer with no major league experience, there'll be a 2050 on your roster, okay? Either way, those 2 guys are going to come onto your roster for whatever you paid under FAB, and then they're going to be treated just like all the other players, either with a first designation or a 2050. Everything will be the same after that.
Sam, in an FYPD, not necessarily just this first one, but any going forward, I think I saw this asked on the Discord. Are the FYPDs just for like the real life FYPD players of that year, or can we take any minor leaguers?
You can take any minor leaguer with no major league experience. So let's say you have a guy that got drafted in 2022 and maybe he was owned, maybe he wasn't owned, but he's back in the free agent pool, but he's never been in the major leagues. You can spend a pick on him if you want. That's fine. But you can only draft players with 0 MLB experience who are attached to a major league team. So the J15s who have signed and the college guys who have signed as well.
Nobody's taking Roki Sasaki. Nobody's getting clever and taking Roki with the number 1 pick.
So let me address that. So Yamamoto was a professional who was posted. So he comes into the first year auction not as a minor leaguer. He's a major leaguer. So anyone who comes in through the posting system will be a major leaguer, not a minor leaguer, and they cannot be taken in the FYPD. Doesn't matter because the auction's first for a reason, and they would go there.
But back to that question that Alan that you brought up, I thought I saw with Zach on the Discord. That was really the only one that I saw we didn't address yet. Year over year, it's probably going to be those international guys or those first-year players that are going to get drafted in those 5 slots because, as Tony just mentioned in the chat, we're able to claim minor leaguers throughout the season using FAB.
Correct.
So any of these pop prospects that maybe didn't get drafted in the last FYPD or maybe they were, just a late bloomer, if they're killing it in AAA and they weren't on any top 100, top 200 lists, someone's going to claim them during the season in a 30-team league. So there's going to be very minimal prospects that you would even draft in your 5 picks in year 2, year 3, and so on that aren't J15, international, or FYPD players.
Yeah, I will say, you can't pick anyone up after the playoffs and the fall league, goes on. And if somebody could, come out of nowhere and light up the fall league, you wouldn't be able to pick them up with FAB. You'd have to pick them up through the FYPD. I think there's going to be like 2 of those guys in the next 10 years. So that's a super rare situation.
I think I grabbed like Owen White a year or 2 years ago because he killed it in AFL, and then I flipped him during the regular season to someone who was a big believer in him. So that's one of the few exceptions.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. So what other questions do we have? Anybody else interested in throwing some questions out here? Did we cover everything that everybody's asked?
That is FAB to pick up. It's got to be the delay here that we're getting because Tony is literally asking the stuff as you are talking about it. Is that can we use FAB to pick up players during the playoffs? Like
it could just be Tony being trolled.
Yeah, so I don't think we're being trolled, but there's a chance, but I don't think so. I think it's just a delay.
Yeah,
I hope it is.
We'll talk about that. I have to go back and look at where we settled on that because honestly, I don't remember. The original version is that playoff teams can pick up during the playoffs, but non-playoff teams can't. But there is the consolation going on, and I don't like the idea the playoff teams have access to guys when the other folks don't. So I either shut it down for everyone or opened it up for everyone, but I don't remember what it was. So I'll have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, outside of that, I think that
covers everything. Games in Korea or whatever, the week or 2 before, they won't be included. They don't count. Yeah. Sorry if your guy throws a no-hitter, but it's just not fair. A couple guys who have some extra, bats or whatever in those games, and they're like 10 days apart from the opening day or something. So Fantrax doesn't include them in their first period, so I did not include them in ours. I know some leagues are.
That's fair. I think that's fair. Yeah.
7 starts per week. Let's cover that real quick. There were some questions about that earlier in the week. If your lineup is illegal, it won't let you set the lineup. So if I move, Rugnet Odor out of my second base slot and hit submit, it'll be like, oh, you're not allowed to. You don't have a second baseman. Put him back in there. If you have someone in the minors that has been called up, it's a 48-hour cool-off period. Then your lineup will lock, so you have to cut somebody. You can't trade anything. Actually, I think the CC has to go in and cut somebody for you. It's a real pain in the butt. Don't let it happen. You get 48 hours. Clean it up. If you go over 7-game start, you lose your highest start, I believe is what it is. I think that's what we've got it set at. It was a 50-point negative, but that's pretty extreme for the number of points we're going to be scoring in a week. So you lose whatever. If you go over by 2, you lose your top 2. If you go over by 1, you lose your top 1 or whatever. But your RPs keep accumulating points. Your bats keep accumulating points. It's just there's no way to get an advantage. It is guaranteed to hurt you. You will lose your top scoring starts if you go over. Don't do it.
Sam, you mentioned earlier with having like the full roster and how they all have to be, every spot needs to be filled by a guy with major league experience, even if it was from a few years ago. We've seen it happen. What happens if we have teams that either aren't doing that or can't do that have no left fielder with major league experience. Like what does happen in those situations?
Yeah, so they don't have to be active on a major league roster. They just have to have at some point in the last 38 years been in the major leagues. So there is a left fielder in the minors or on the waiver wire that has played ball. He might be in single A right now, 38 years old on his way out. But you can stick him in that left field spot. Even though he's got a minors tag on him, he counts as a major leaguer. You're not going to get any points for it. You should have managed your team better. But nobody will be forced to be illegal. It's not possible with 2,000 players with major league experience in the system out there.
Yeah, Sam, I think you set up a good system with this league that nobody's going to intentionally tank, especially in year one, right? But we know, you know, come mid-season, there's going to be people that are out of the playoff race that are going to be looking to, trade some bats or arms for prospects. But even when you do that, I think just for the integrity of the league, you need to have, make your best attempt to field a full active roster, right? So, in this case, you could fill your left field spot with some no-name guy just in the minor leagues that had a cup of coffee 6 years ago, but that's not really the intent behind the rule. Is that even if you do trade players, you want to maintain active players and at least your active slots, not reserve slots, but you still want to maintain, a team that is semi-competitive and just not putting up 0 points a week, right?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons for paying out a very generous dollar per win is those wins matter. Like you're literally burning money if you don't field a competitive team. I mean, you are just throwing hundreds of dollars away every year because you're not even minimally competitive. If you can just keep the 20th highest scoring team in a week, you could go 8-0 if you're playing the bottom third of the league, right? And make $50 in a week or whatever, or $25 in a week here in a few years, $350 a win in years 3+. So you're taking home over $25 for an 8-0 week as the 20th team. So you don't have to be the best. You're not used to 30 teamers, and you're used to playing those 12 teamers where everybody's got an all-star in every position, and you're running a corner infield, the middle infield, and super infield, and a utility infield, and they're all stars. Like, that is not how 30 teamers work. You just need anyone who scores points. Blake Sable in left field playing 3 games a week is legitimate. You're going to win money doing that. So yeah, to Brendan's point, will you break a rule if you put the guy that had the cup of coffee 6 years ago? No, but it's not good for the competitive integrity of the league. It's not good for you financially. It's a short-term solution, okay, but that's not what we should be going for.
All right, we got a couple late questions from Blue Jays John, who I guess is watching, which is awesome. If I have to have active players in all my slots, can I leave an injured guy in a slot and not move him to the IL?
Yes.
All right. And what's the movement of minors versus majors with the green flag system?
Yeah, anyone with the green flag can go in the minors during the season.
Easy enough.
Outside of the season, when we roll the league over, you can only have true minor 20-50 guys in your minor spots. Like I showed earlier, Cowser had a cup of coffee. He's got to be in an active spot when the league rolls over. But during the year, as soon as the draft is over, I can move Cowser back into the minors and cut somebody or whatever I want to do there.
Yeah, maybe I should check
Good question.
Discord. I haven't checked this. Oh yeah, you got it, man. Yeah.
I want to emphasize as well. I'm going to pull up, okay. Let me share that screen. All right, so here we have couch managers. Make your max bid your real bid. Everyone uncheck this. I think your first couch manager's auction, this will be checked. Every couch manager auction I've ever done, someone screws this up and we have to go in and fix it. Go uncheck that button and don't ever check it again. For the rest of your drafts, it should be unchecked. You can see. Let me see. I'll go to the test one. So here's where they're having fun over here. You can click on, Freddie Freeman, and over here it will show. Well, where is it at? Might not show. Oh yeah, right here. It's going to show you how much people bid and when they bid on him. So you can get an idea of like a bunch of people are in or out. And if you're out, you can hit this pass so that it won't bug you about him. I can't do it because I'm not in the auction. But if I was in an auction, I don't remember what the name of our other one was.
Kind of grays it out. It doesn't mean you can't bid on that guy anymore, but it kind of grays him out and takes him out of your immediate visual. When you're looking at 30 guys there, you can have some way to differentiate. Like, okay, I'm not even going to look at this. Not even going to look at this. I use it. I know some guys don't. I like it.
Let's say I was really interested in Acuna and I want to see how many teams are in on him. I could see the bidding history to see how many teams are chasing him. And I can also see down here the number of teams that are out on him. So it gives me an idea of what my competition is. Another thing, as your players come in, it's just going to stack them top to bottom regardless of their position. You can hit edit roster and you can drag your players around and put them where you want them to be. Hit save change and it'll update it here. You can hit pending roster and it'll show you the people that you're currently winning so that you can get an idea of what you might need. And you can go look at other people's rosters and see who they're winning and what they might not be going after. So let's say you notice that you and Nolan are in this firefight for this player. You can go to his roster and hit pending and you can see he's already winning another first baseman. So maybe he's given up. And so you can bid on Vinny and not be worried about Nolan coming after it. Or you could say, like, I don't want to bid on Freeman because that'll drive Nolan back to Vinny. There's all that kind of information that's on this page for you.
One thing to definitely keep in mind, especially if this is your first time using couch managers, do not trust the couch manager's position. If there's any uncertainty at all, look the guy up in tracks and make sure that you'll have guys on couch managers that are listed at third base that are going to be shortstops, in Fantrack, whatever it might be, make sure, especially with the outfielders, since we use left, right, and center, we don't just use generic outfield. Look and see where these guys play. That is going to be huge. You don't want to get stuck bidding on 3 guys that are center field only. That happens. It can really ruin your auction. Check the Fantrax positions. Do not trust couch managers.
Yeah, and the caveat to that is do not trust Fantrax positions this time of year. I'll give you an example. Shenyul here shows first, third, and left. But if you click on him, you can scroll down and you can go to where he played last year, and he only played at first base. So Fantrax default is to give them what they played in the minors, but once they accumulate 10 or more games at a position, they will only get awarded that position in the next year. And so Fantrax is going to come in at some point between now and the season and take first base or third base and left off of Shenyul. I'll show you another player. It's the shortstop.
How about Trevor Story?
Yeah, Lofton. It was a minor leaguer who didn't hit 10 at any position last year, and so they left him at shortstop. So he'll probably keep that shortstop. Trevor Story, probably because he was injured, is why you're asking about that. Yeah, so he only played 1 game at second base. He's probably going to lose that second base eligibility. I wouldn't trust that. Always, always, always look for 10 games or more and only count on that.
Some guys are updated. They have, like Christopher Morel has lost a bunch of the eligibility that he had earlier in the year. They have updated some, but
some leagues are updated and some aren't. So you can find a player in one league that's been updated and a player in another that's not. It's kind of weird. But just kind of check that out and trust that. Also, once they've played 5 games in the location in season, they'll pick it up. So in Story's case, if he had shortstop eligibility, but he was going to lose second, and Boston was playing him, playing him at second, which I don't think they are, but if they were, he would pick it up within a week or two. So it's not the end of the world. And, at the end of the day, if you just draft the wrong guy, you got to trade. And I know we all hate trading, right? So
some of us.
Tony, your question about the lottery balls, for the consolation, we have it where every win in the consolation gives you an extra lottery ball, and winning the consolation gives you an extra 2. So you're going to pick up a lot of lottery balls for winning that consolation. So you have 14 lottery balls if you get last place, and you have 1 lottery ball if you get 17th place. But if in 17th place you win the consolation, you could add 6 or 7 more lottery balls and still get a pretty good pick because you still put together a team all year long. So again, it's an anti-tanking punishment. Tanking is about the worst thing that can happen for a league in real life. And that's my Discord going on.
Say it again for the people watching right now.
Yeah, tanking is about the worst thing you can do, both competitively and for your own bank account. And so I highly recommend you do not tank. In a lot of other leagues, it's like, oh, I'll make this trade. I'm getting this spec. I'm doing whatever. I'm telling you, MLB talent is going to be so sought after in this league. You're going to want to pay for it, and you're going to want to keep it. I'm giving y'all all nuggets because I don't want this league to fall apart. But I'm telling you, it's going to be very fierce.
I would say that it's atypical for, like we've seen a lot of these guys have played 30 teamers before. I would say that it's not a usual thing for guys to make a podcast the night before a draft starts and give insight into exactly how these kind of leagues operate. I do think guys should be paying attention, the guys that have been watching, the guys that intend to watch. I'm not saying, the guy next to me over here just won ABL last year. He just won, and he took over a team. Brenden did not draft the team that he took to the championship. I mean, these guys know what they're talking about. Sam put this thing together. Brenden is a champion. I've been around for a couple years. I'm always around in some capacity.
You're Podmaster
I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, listen, Brenden took over like the second to worst team in a year, turned it around into the championship, and it was a co-championship. I got my Venmo payment because I shipped all the He had help. He had help from a very generous person. But I think, Brenden, you had a visual that you wanted to put up on the screen to discuss regarding some of the trade behavior.
Oh no, I didn't. Sam, I'm not gonna put you on blast like that. Sam made some very, very questionable moves recently. I think alcohol may have been involved in at least one of them. And I guess we'll see how it plays out over the course of this upcoming season. So.
Yeah, that's the exciting thing. If you make sure that a spec or a pick is thrown into every deal you do, you can always argue you're going to win it later.
We won't be able to tell for years down the road. Who knows?
Spoken like a guy who's lost a lot of trades, I think.
Yeah. All right. Justin Guerrero says, my biggest fantasy fear, what is it?
Jeez, yeah. Losing trades? Having to admit that you've lost trades? Because, man, I was looking today. I was talking to Jeff in ABL. We had made a deal. I don't remember exactly when, but he traded me Jeremy De La Rosa, the center field prospect for the Nats. I traded him Andrew Abbott. And Andrew Abbott, of course, so far has went on to have a much better big league career, much better really high minors career. Jeremy De La Rosa has flamed out. So there's an example of a bad one that I know I lost on.
So Justin here says his biggest fantasy fear is alcohol-induced trades. So I know who I'm hitting up on Saturday nights for deals. Here we go. Justin, what team is Justin? I got to look him up.
I think he co-owns the Expos, I think.
Yep, correct. Yep.
Yeah. Justin and Pat run the Expos.
All right. Justin, coming
Good to have you watching, man. Good to have you watching. Yeah.
Even worse, Sam says, no alcohol was involved.
You guys got anything else that you feel is important, worth mentioning before we get into the
one last thing I'll say, price enforcing is fun in an auction. I'm probably the world's worst price enforcer because I have two favorite players in the MLB right now, and I've never owned either one of them because other than for a brief stint, which I could say about 97% of players. But I don't have any emotional attachment to these guys. They're just numbers for me. And so if I see a guy that's, got some room for arbitrage on the value there, then I click bid. I can't tell you how many times I've bid on somebody and 5 hours later I was like, man, I wish somebody would take this bid from me. So I will say, like, make sure before you click that button, you really want to click that button, because we got 8 hours to think about it after you click that button. But once you click it, you might own it. And
it's fun watching it go yellow and watching it go up by $1, and then all of a sudden it turns over, and now you're on the hook for $38, and you're going, ooh.
Right. You start to look at the board and you're like, well, I'm paying 38 for Kalinick, and Simeon's 25 and Rutschman's 13. I would have taken those two guys for the same 38,
Well, and because of the couch managers is kind of wonky with how they list their players. There's like quote unquote deals to be had because guys aren't necessarily going to be scrolling deep enough. I know one, for example, is Vinny P. Vinny P. Duke got for like $1 in one of the Dynasty best balls because he's so far down on the couch managers list because he missed so much time. So it's like, okay, if guys are just like kind of going down the list and adding to their queue, guys like Vinny P. slip through the cracks and don't show up until day 4 or 5. When a lot of money has been spent already. So, I'm not saying make a list of the guys you want and make sure you put them in your queue on couch managers right now. Just be aware that there doesn't seem to be any super specific order to how couch managers list guys. I don't know if it's on projections or on actual finish, but just realize that there will be guys buried that are still going to be very interesting to you at some point in this auction.
Yeah, Justin asks where we get our 30-team values. I'll share this. I don't really mind. I don't think. Think this is the one I was meaning to share. Yeah. So I pull all the projected stats in, usually from a couple different sites, and aggregate out, and then I do a bunch of math to it, and it gives me what I feel are my personal values. But let me pull up fan graphs here for anyone who doesn't know how to do that. I don't want to give away.
You can make that Excel a shared doc and put a link in the Discord for us.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Let's see. If you go to Google and you type fantasy auction values fan graphs, it'll come up. Here, I'll just share now. So if you type this in here, fantasy auction value fan graphs, it'll give you this auction calculator, and you can come here and you can go to points, or you can do whatever. You can build it out however you want to do it. I'm not going to tell you how to do it because then everybody have a bunch of similar sheets, but go pull the points from the Constitution, build it out. It's not perfect. Like we don't have, they do have quality starts there. I didn't see that the other day, so I made some adjustments. But either way, that's for Roto. Yeah, for points, they don't have quality starts on here for some reason. Seems a little bizarre to me, but whatever. And so you set up what you think the league settings are, and you hit generate, and it tells you, hey, William Contreras, $72 player. But there's a lot of massaging here. You can artificially reduce position player or relievers. You can change what you think is rare and more important, and it'll adjust accordingly. So that's available out there. I'll just share that as a resource that I think most of the people in this league probably already know about. But I highly encourage you to do your own research, to pull stuff from Steamer and Zips and Fan Tracks and Fan Graphs and everybody else that's forecasting out there, and you also have to realize that sheet is for 2024 only. So is Acuna worth, $95 in 2024? Yeah, sure. But is he worth that for the next 5 years versus what $95 in future value you would buy if you're buying guys that are in their first or second year? No, absolutely not. So you can't just take that and, robo bid based on whatever that says.
You're welcome, Tony. I know you're talking to Sam, but you're welcome. Yeah. Yeah, see, I don't think there's a whole lot of other leagues where guys are giving helpful advice and tidbits to guys that are going to be directly competing against 24 hours from now. So,
well, I mean, earlier today, Alan, you were talking about doing a pod talking about auction strategy, and I was like, I don't know about this. Let's try to field some questions, do a little Q&A before we just say, show our cards before the.
This was Brendan's idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it though, because every auction is different. Sometimes you have 3 players go for over $70 and the landscape totally changes. And sometimes the big guys go for $48 and then the middle totally changes. Sometimes there's a run on the middle and the middle guys are going for $35 when they should be $25 because people are panicking. And then you have to call an audible and say, I don't want to get in that feeding frenzy. I'm going to take third tier guys for $8 and keep them the next year. Like, you have to make decisions based on what 29 other owners, or in this case, 33 with the co-owners, are doing. And so, I mean, you can talk about all this stuff, but executing it is very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. What if day one, we get some weird bit of, what if 22 of the 30 nominations are shortstops, that's going to change. It's going to change everything for everybody, because now, you kind of have to get your shortstop. Now there's 22 of them out there. I didn't plan on bidding on so-and-so, but now I have to, because they're all out there. I don't want to miss one. So,
and you make up a great point. You're in on Freddie Freeman. You've got him locked in on your sheet as your first baseman. And so you let Goldschmidt and Vinny and, Meneses all in because you've got Freddie. And then at the last minute, some jackass bids $10 more on Freddie. And you just missed out on the 3 first basemen that ended that you might have, pivoted to, but they're gone. It's over. So now,
what happens now? Are you punting? You're going with Luke Raley at first base, but you're also saving like $35. So now where does that $35 extra go? Now it bumps up somebody else.
I tried to trade for Luke Raley like twice this offseason in ABL. So, everyone's valuable in a 30-team league. Just how much
I had a Luke Raley for Echedri Vargas 1-for-1 offer before he left Tampa, and I turned it down because of his platooning. And the next day he got traded, and I was like,
yeah, Gary nailed that. He really did. Like, Gary nailed Luke Raley getting traded, and Duke nailed Michael Bush getting traded. Like, that's just so fortunate. Yeah, but that's how she goes.
I'm pretty happy about getting Jackson Ferris before the deal with the Dodgers, because he's about to take off too. So
I don't know if I believe that, but
that's why I like you, Alan.
He is. I don't know if he is, but one guy I was very happy to see the Dodgers deal Nick Nastrini, because I see a very easy path to a rotation spot for him with the White Sox. Maybe not like breaking camp or anything, but not for nothing, Duke has been knocking on my door about him, so that means I know he's good. So if I didn't think he was good already, now I know he is, because Duke wants him.
Yeah. Well, we didn't turn this into an ABL offseason recap, but I was just looking at the BA top 100 that dropped today. And Alan, all 3 of the specs that I traded you in that big deal last year are like in the top 50 now. Like Colson Montgomery, I think, was number 15. Nastrini was like 50 something, and Miz is like 35 or 40. So, the Colorado
Rockies. I had some regrets initially, but yeah, I'm really loving that group now, especially. Yeah, I've had a lot of inquiries about Colson.
Yeah, I'm good. I think we've covered enough. I think that we've helped people out as much as we can help them out without doing it for them. I did have a couple guys send me their login info and ask me if I'd run their draft for them. So there might be some squirrely stuff going on. I'm not going to lie. we might see a triple digit Otani now. But the British contingency is going to be in bed when the auction starts, and I've got their login. So
you're serious?
Yeah, we're gonna have fun.
Okay, all right. Those guys really are British?
They are British.
Whoa!
I don't have their login. I was kidding.
Dude, you've put together a league that has at the very minimum, if you count Belize for the one dude, we've got 4 countries represented in the year one of this league with Canada and oh man,
an international conglomerate came in and bought one of our teams up, so that's pretty cool too. So.
Well, Alan, before you sign us
up,
off,
is big right now.
Yeah. Alan, I just want to say, how accomplished Sam is, that while he's leading this pod with us all and kicking off a new league, he's literally sending me trade offers right now while we're doing this podcast in ABL. So, you all are watching or may watch us later. You'll get to know Sam real well over the course of this season and hopefully seasons to come. He's a character, and I'll just leave it at that.
You just can't stop. You're sitting here talking about. You just can't stop. He can't help it.
Well, I was after Quan, and Quan traded while we were on here, and so I was in there firing off to Lenny for Quan, and I saw a counter from Brenden, and I just figured I would, true the deal up to where it needs to be, so we can make something happen.
I didn't see the Quan deal. I know my dad was going to make a play for him, so that'll disappoint him. Damn.
Yeah, Lenny got him.
All
but
right.
I think we're boring the TFE audience talking about ADL.
Sorry.
So Brenden, hit accept, and we'll move on.
All right, guys.
All right.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. I appreciate both of your time. I hope everybody watching that does watch appreciates the advice and everything. And we're just here to help. That's all this is, and we enjoy talking about this stuff, and we're excited for this league. So, thank you both, and to everybody else. Good luck tomorrow. It's real tomorrow. No more mocking. It's real.
That's right. And
all right, guys.
Yeah, we still have to figure out the league safe stuff. But pending that getting all cleared up, I think we're good to start tomorrow.
Right.
So.
Cool. All right, gentlemen. Take it easy.
Peace.